article.
Oh shit!
And then he had all these books about all that. That book, man, the Gabo Mate, The Myth of Normal.
Mm-hmm.
I think you got to read that, bro.
I did a paper on one of his books when I was in school.
It's really long, but you got to get that on audio for your drives.
Mate's a boy, man.
Yeah,
but he doesn't look real.
Check.
Yeah.
He looks
It's like
his
an
facial
avatar.
structure. Yeah, he looks like something out of the Lord of the Rings, man. He has a very like hobbity, elfy.
Mm-hmm.
His eyes. I told you about what happened to him when the first time I think he went for ibogaine treatment.
Ayahuasca.
They were like,
told him you can't.
You are dark, bro. You're gonna have to. He was like, yeah, but I just can't stop listening to classical music.
That was his addiction.
that was one for half baked right there.
Check.
Classical music.
Yeah.
Classical music. No, but that dude, he's a
Check.
beast, a for real beast.
Yeah, the Myth of Normal gets into a lot of stuff. It gets into medical conditions and the interlinking of the mind, body, and soul, and how we don't. Everything's compartmentalized. You go see a therapist, and they're just talking about your psychology. You go see a spiritual counselor, he's just talking about your spiritual. You go see a doctor, he's just talking about your physical. And that we don't connect those pieces.
It never turned into a whole person.
Yeah.
And it's funny because a lot of those, even though they're not specialists, each one has their own lane, right? They kind of contradict. Well, I told my psychologist was telling him, no, man,
right.
You got to eat better.
Or even like with Wes and one of his daughters, like, he's got to go to this specialist and then this specialist and this specialist. And then it's like, but these specialists aren't talking to each other.
Yeah. There's no interaction between them where it should be like a meeting. You would think there should be a meeting.
If you get up to like, millionaire status, you got millions.
You got all that. Yeah, you got all that.
And you can just assemble the team.
Then the team comes.
Pay everybody.
And then when you're sick, the whole team comes out and represents you on TV.
Right.
Yes, Mr. Cleope,
Right.
we've had 3 meetings and he's just dead. He about to die.
This shot, I don't like this shot on me. It's too white. I'm going to switch it. Got to look in there. It looks like,
You change lenses?
yeah. It looked like,
That was it. There's something about there has to be something about I love Wes, you know what I mean? That's my dog, right? But it's funny, just to be like, oh, are you talking about that Times article? Yeah, my homies are cited to die.
All right. Fucking sit down somewhere. The bullshit.
Oh, you just had it cited twice, huh? Cool. All right.
you might need to address that.
Oh, he's the editor. Oh, fuck, man. Of course he is.
That's like that dude Cash, bro. Oh, my God.
Yeah, that's
Riding around with that dude, it's like
Who?
Cash, the guy that was at, that went to the Vision Wear thing. We're not streaming, are we?
Yes.
Oh. They just tell a story, and it's like, you'd be like, yeah, so I was in Bakersfield, I was at the Texaco. Oh, Texaco, I was at Bakersfield? Yeah, my dad took me there when I was 17, and, I hopped the curb with my BMX, and it was really cool. It's like, got a story about everything.
Yeah, a one-upper.
Yeah, one-upper. Like someone asks you a question about you, but it's really just to get you on the topic so they can tell you something that...
How you been feeling? Oh, man, I've been really sad. Oh, sad? Let me tell you about this time I was sad. I was so sad.
Right.
Look at the text, Leslie. She said, remind Christian not to slouch because of tummy.
Pick it up.
No, that's sad.
Chest down.
Come on, Leslie. Why you have to do him like that? Why you have to do him like that? That's so crazy.
Well, I did put it in our group chat that I got to start sitting up.
All right, guys. You ready? How you feeling?
I think so. I'm feeling all right, man.
My shot good?
Yeah, shot's good. You're good, huh?
You know, I gotta keep.
You're looking sharp, baby.
It's not for me. You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah, it's
just
for the
I want to
people.
make
It's for
sure
the-
I have.
It's for the people, man.
it's for
You
the
know, it's
people.
for the people, baby.
No one wants an ugly guru.
No,
you know what I'm
man,
saying?
Yeah, you can't be a
You
sloppy
can't be
guru.
an ugly guru, bro.
You get a reputation.
Have you ever seen Ram Dass?
He looks like he doesn't really care too much about his looks.
All right, recording in 5, 4, 3, 2. Recording error. Okay,
Where is it shooting at?
I'll fix it.
Put it to movies,
Kale, man,
documents.
the shit that's coming out, like you guys are posting about you, dude. I love it, dude. I love like even like the whatever you can get of the before and after type of, you know, day one, that type of shit, dude. That's powerful stuff, dude. That's some like visual, like, yo, look at this dude.
You could see it.
Dude,
Yeah.
he brought that picture out, and I was like, God, why'd you? Or the video of me in the hotel. I was like, why did you do that, man?
That was when he relapsed 2 hours out of detox.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
I don't think I saw that one. I'm just talking about the one where he got in the truck.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what I'm
that's
talking
it.
about.
Is that
Yeah.
one? Is that it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I picked him up in detox, took him home to get his shit. I didn't even think maybe I should go in the room with him, but
You wouldn't have found it.
it wouldn't. Yeah, he would have figured out a way.
Boofed it.
He would have boosted it. You fix the recording?
Yeah, we're good.
You're recording on documents in the movie?
Yep.
Okay.
That boy acts like he knows what he's doing.
All right, ready? Mm-hmm. Lord, thank you for the time. Thank you for keeping my brother here another year. And as he journeys on, may this year be the best year yet. May continue to grow and learn and ultimately be more aware of your constant presence, guidance, and love in his life. May he surrender to that daily. And you know him better than any of us, Lord. And so we thank you for loving him and admonishing him and growing him and teaching him to be a good brother and friend to us all. We surrender this time to your care and control. It's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Most High Show.
Yeah.
Today is house cleaning.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I like these days.
Yes.
Let's talk about it.
Although
Let's
I
break it
feel like
down.
there's probably somebody who went, nope.
Oh, just them two?
Skip.
Oh, they're doing one of those again.
But today we have some interesting topics. We're going to talk about National Recovery Month.
Ooh,
And-
what's that?
There was a Times article that Mitchell forwarded to me, actually.
Oh, really? Cool.
And I was reading through it, and then I sent it to my buddy Wes. And Wes was telling me about it, and so we thought, you know what, this is kind of perfect timing, something that we kind of already talk about. And so we're going to do all that. And plus, it's David's birthday, so
Yes, yes, yes.
let's go.
5-1, baby.
$51?
51.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
If I would have known that, I wouldn't have made the day so special.
50. Maybe 50. I
thought
would
it
have
was
hooked it up. 51? 51? Lame.
So Kale's going to be shooting us. Kale's also here on the ones and twos.
Yes, sir.
Leslie's doing quality control, of course. David is here, and Kale's going to be throwing us some facts. So,
Okay.
you know, tell me about what's up with this. What's this recovery month? Everybody talking about recovery month. What's recovery?
Put your
month?
date. Put my recovery date. Because we celebrating recovery month.
Yeah. I feel like I think the tab's already open. Yeah, I feel like I don't want to start another episode talking about race, but I feel like maybe this is what black people
White
feel
boys.
like.
Let me tell you something about how white boys
Black History Month.
do.
It's just to me
Recovery
like
month.
just kind of like here's a month. It's just weird. It's just kind of like more antics. It's to me. This is just me. It's like, how do we address it without addressing it? How do we say that we paid attention so that we can say we paid attention, and then we keep moving on? Because I don't know. I don't know how all of this, you know, we got to continue the fight,
Yeah.
you know, and just because it's September, all of a sudden it's at the forefront of everyone's minds until
October.
whatever October is. And so to me, it's just weird. But I think there is a history to it, and I'm probably wrong.
What is the history? Do you know the history of it? I have no idea.
Kale has got it.
Boom.
Well, for one, it started in 1989. It's
Really?
Yeah.
89.
I was not sober then. I'll tell you that much.
Work for us.
No, I didn't celebrate that month then.
What were you celebrating then?
National freaking try to freaking live month, I guess. I don't know I don't know what I was doing then, man. 89 National EPMD month.
89.
They busted out a new album in 89.
I don't think I was in high school yet. Okay, so it started 89.
I'm sorry.
I digress.
Sorry about that.
So it's held every September to promote and support new evidence-based treatment and recovery practices, the nation's strong and proud recovery community, and the dedications of service providers and communities who make recovery in all its forms possible. So it's for you guys. It's held in observance of people like you and our friend Mary and yeah,
People like you, Kale.
I guess so.
Us.
People like us.
That's funny because I do remember the recovery community in 89 and what it looked like in 89. It was very quiet. You know, there was no recovery out loud movement. It was like, you know, just off the backbone of like, you know, just say no. Mothers Against Drunk Driving, that kind of stuff was going on at that time.
Just say no, dare.
Yeah. I remember them because you can go to AA and smoke inside whatever building you were at.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. In
that's
in
old
88,
school.
89. That was old school.
Yeah.
Everybody hated me. Everybody hated me because I would go there not with any. I was a kid. It wasn't like trying to do anything. I had to go there because of court or something like that, you know, in those days. You know, 16, 17. It was like, you know, a probation thing. I would have to go attend like meetings. You know what I'm saying?
Had to.
Yeah.
Oh,
And I was
so
like,
they're
man,
all
this
like-
is some. And they were like nothing but OGs.
Yeah.
And they're
You're
like,
just taking up a chair
yeah.
for the person that really wants it.
I remember all the people from I also worked at Denny's, and we had a big bar.
Denny's.
Yeah, I had a big bar at the, you know, a coffee bar. You know what I mean? And all the AA dudes would leave a meeting, and they would all just post up at the bar at Denny's and just hang out and smoke cigarettes because you can smoke inside too and drink coffee.
Oh, yeah.
Same thing they were doing inside.
It's the same thing, different location. Better coffee.
Better coffee here.
Yeah. Yeah, I think NA is 40 years old this year.
Wow.
So that would have been 84
Yeah.
that NA came about.
I remember my first NA meeting too was like the first thing that stuck out. We don't shake hands, we give hugs.
Oh, yeah.
That was the big thing whenever I first went to NA.
Yeah.
That was like my crowd. Then I was like, yo, this is
You can
it.
get with them.
I can hang out with these folks.
Yeah, yeah.
We're hacky sacking and like hanging out. You know what I mean?
What the
I related to that a little bit better.
Okay, so it started then. What else you got for us on this recovery month thing?
So some other facts that kind of 4.1 million people in the U.S. over the age of 12, children, receive some kind of substance abuse treatment within the past year. That's from the 2021 National Survey of Drug Use and Health. In addition, the survey estimates that 43.7 million people in the same age range needed substance abuse treatment. in the
How
past
many?
year.
Say that again.
43.7 million.
Needed it but didn't get it,
Right.
or didn't seek it, or
Yeah, it doesn't really specify.
okay,
Maybe it wasn't available to them.
yeah. Well, that's kind of hard to believe it's not available.
Well, I tell you what, it's not that it's not available, but like, you know, if you are suffering from addiction and you're going that route and you're trying to get help, right? And you're trying to go to maybe, you know, like say you have insurance, right? And you're going that route to get it, okay? Like, oh, my son, you know, he needs help. I mean, dude, a lot of those insurance companies before you can get help. I mean, the wait is serious. And then when you get into like maybe counseling or any kind of, that kind of help, it's very spaced out because it's definitely limited to the demand right now. There's not enough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So
Although
what we
there is a
have-
lot,
Yeah.
right? There's more than ever,
Yeah.
but there's still the demand's very high right now.
Right. But what we do have a lot of, and I think it's fairly easy to get into, is our rehabs.
Yes.
So what we have is kind of this crisis intervention model that's very prevalent and predominant and kind of like the front lines but it's almost like we wait until we're at crisis to get and seek any kind of help, right? Because to your point, it's hard to get maybe some therapy when things are starting to get kind of bad.
Yeah.
You're not sure if you have a problem.
And to be honest with you, the way the insurance companies work, I mean, you have to be at a certain level of, substance use to get
To qualify.
to qualify. Yeah,
Right.
that's a big thing.
Right.
You
Yeah, you got to be using.
have to be using. You got like you got like maybe, let's say you're really still suffering, but you were able to like kick for a minute, and you say and you're honest. Oh, I got like 3.5 weeks sobriety. Your level of treatment, or what's offered to you, is going to go down.
Yeah.
You're not going to be offered the same as somebody coming in there like out of detox or something like that.
Right.
So it's kind of a weird place to be as far as like how insurance interprets
Yeah.
what help is.
And so 89, that's a long time. So
89 is wild.
maybe the accumulation of these recovery months, because like you said, there's much more resources, but we also have a lot more information now than we did in 89, right?
Big time.
We have the ability to do better brain scans and brain imagery, which has created better research to kind of look at the brain and what the brain is doing under the influence or in the addiction pattern. We have a lot more information because we've had years, right, of kind of evidence to say this works, this doesn't work, here's this thing. And so, there's this girl, Amy, who we met in Athens.
Okay.
And she works for an organization. I don't remember what it is, and we've been talking back and forth a lot, messaging back and forth, because she's been opening my eyes to the amount of resources that are out there.
Yes.
And
Especially in Athens. Athens is got it going on in recovery.
And for somebody like me who's like a 12-step person, it's easy to kind of get in that bubble of that. Even though and I know well that it's not the only way.
Right.
But I'm saying that when you kind of get in that community, that becomes kind of like where I'm leading people to. And so to understand that there are a lot of resources out there. But I think we might have talked about this in the other podcast, which was that some of those state or federal programs are, to your point, long waits to get into, a lot of hoops to jump through. And, you've helped people, and, our friend Mira helps people to get off the streets, and it's like, they don't got an address. They don't know how to fill out an online form. They're like, so there's a lot of hurdles.
Yeah. So, there's a, like, it's almost like, and it's not hidden, but there are places that kind of got like the inside scoop to get you help fast. You know what I mean? So if you're a mom and a dad, and, we were talking about children for a little bit, if you're a mom and a dad and you're ignorant to this whole process, the way you go, you're probably going to go about it in a way that the process is going to be long and slow.
You're going to Google it.
Yeah, you're going to do something like that.
Yeah, and then you're going to hit these brokers.
Yes, and it's
who
going to be
have
one
7,
of those
10 websites up.
Right.
And they basically funnel into. Yeah, this is real. Like I had a
That's
guy
true.
came to me years ago and wanted to hire me to build like 10 websites for him because he was working with a couple treatment centers, and I just didn't feel right about that. Even though, I mean, who cares? You get the help, you get the help, right? But there's a lot of things that kind of go into all this stuff that's really interesting. So, all right.
Well, real quick, another thing that I like to, when we're talking about when we talk about the information, that there's a lot more information now,
Yeah.
right? And like platforms are available now, like this, right? That can help guide you to
Yeah.
get you the help. I think Georgia is blessed with a growing community of treatment, meaning, ever since the Parity Act was passed, HB 1013, there has been an influx of people with services that are making this process faster, maybe more efficient.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always, so stuff like this always opens up the corporate entity side of things that kind of makes
Oh,
people
yeah.
in the community maybe cringe a little bit. But
Yeah.
like you said, if it works and it's a place that you can go to get some
Yeah.
help, then go ahead and get it, and it's
Well,
offered.
that's the big question, and that's going to lead to our next section, I think.
That's
which
what I
is,
do. I segue things.
Yes.
I'm a segue.
Great segue. Because does it work? Right?
That's a good question.
And I think that the benefit of having some time in doing my own spiritual growth and is, where I was 10 years ago, 5 years ago, that I would have thought like, okay, you apply this to it, right? Here's the solution. We apply the solution to the thing. And so what's kind of a buzzword in treatment is individualized care. But I'd rarely have found anybody who really, truly does individualized care. What they really do is say, here's our process. We'll add this and this to the process, but mainly this is what we're going to run you through. And how many people have we interviewed, do I know, that you know, who have done 10, 12, 17, 20? We interviewed somebody yesterday. She did 22 different rehabs. So
That's a lot of rehabs.
that's a lot of rehabs. So something. Now, of course, you got to put on the individual, so it's not, the onus isn't all on the company.
Right.
But to me, it's just like, here's this thing, this system, and we're going to put you in it, and we're going to refeed you through this, and we're just going to keep pushing you through, and then we're going to offer you, what do they call that when you relapse? And they offer you kind of get back in,
Reentry,
reentry,
yeah.
kind of like discounts and
Yeah,
stuff
yeah,
like
yeah.
that, and
That's a whole thing too, So what we're doing is we're talking about does it work, and then we're showing the business entity at the same time. So we're like showing what could possibly be the problem of
Right.
this whole
yeah.
thing. You know what I mean? The
Yeah.
whole machine of
Right.
sorts, right?
That's where I think, like, if I'm settling in some place, and I might change my mind about this, but right now, what seems to be the most effective thing that I've seen is the peer model. Like, and that is something to the credit of Georgia, has really created a system to empower more people to be peer
Right.
support specialists or cares. It's also what the 12-step model is based on, peer support. Because in peer support, it's a level ground, ideally. And we can share our own experience, what we've done. We can make suggestions. We can guide you along the process. And I think that's where you can get that individualized
Right.
kind of care, right?
Yeah, I think I agree with that like 99.9%.
Yeah.
Because I think the most effective treatment, it runs along the line of peer, and peer really translates into community, into network of like-minded individuals, into like the therapeutic value of one person who is struggling helping another person that might be struggling less or something like that. And there's a relatability. I'm not sure if that's a word, but that's
think it is.
what I'm trying to say is like they believe each other. They end up having a trusting relationship, and then there's help involved, right?
Right. Practical.
It's practical. I think if I was to criticize that model, which is like the big part of it to me, okay, but there is like things that you can't deny that are like, with anybody that is an addict, please believe there is trauma and mental health and emotional health on a level that this thing keeps repeating over and over again because of these things. That medication
And biological.
and biological, all that.
Yeah.
So that kind of stuff needs to be, I think, needs to be toothed out a little bit deeper, specifically trauma and like a heavy like mental health diagnosis, maybe, like that may be elevated and severe, that needs to be seen maybe some, higher than I wouldn't say higher, I would say along with
Right.
peer help.
Yeah, right. And that's what's worked for me is,
Yeah.
a therapist in conjunction with the steps, and then the therapist is kind of as needed,
Yeah.
right? But I do know that most of my breakthroughs and growth has come from either coaching or peer
Oh yeah.
support.
That's the growth comes from that.
Yeah.
Being able to like manage your life.
Yeah.
Like being able to adjust this thing that you like, learning the acceptance of like what's going on with you and how to move forward in a productive way to like, ultimately, hopefully flourish with your stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
That's comes from your homie,
Yeah.
somebody that you trust, somebody that's going to talk with you a
Right.
little bit longer than a once a week hour session.
Right.
That's where
and
the
the,
help
the
comes
biology portion for me, which I've shared before on this, which was, 5 to 6 years in recovery, going to see an addictionologist,
Yeah.
getting the biology addressed, right? Having a brain scan, getting a hormone panel, getting a blood a test done to see my vitamins and vitamins deficiencies, and that was huge. And I thought, man, I wish I would have, if I would have year one stepped into that addictionologist, and because sometimes a little tweak, I mean, a low vitamin D can cause symptoms of depression.
Oh my goodness, man! Like I'm
Like
telling
literally,
you, yeah, all that.
you just low on vitamin D. You know what I'm saying? Like that could
Screw
literally
your whole
be,
system up.
yeah. And especially with the endocrine system and the hormones, when you have, especially with continued heavy drug use,
Yeah.
and specifically with drugs, right? Because that is messing this whole system up. And when your endocrine system starts to get off balance, when one hormone kind of gets out, your cortisol level could be off, right? So could be experiencing anxiety symptoms, but the problem is not poor mental health, or you might get diagnosed with anxiety disorder, right? Never once going to the doctor to say, how are my hormones, right?
Yeah.
And when I've got put on to hormone therapy, and so when I first started that, whenever I would have these breakthrough moments or breakdowns, but dude, let me just tell you this. This is a clip right here. Every breakdown is the beginning of a breakthrough.
Ooh.
Let
Say
me
that one
just
more
tell
time.
you that.
One more time.
Every breakdown is the beginning of a breakthrough.
Tell it.
But every breakdown I'd have to go, well, let me go to the doctor, get my blood work test. Is this spiritual? Is this the Lord? Or is this some hormone imbalance, right?
Yeah.
Because when your hormones are off, man, it will enact symptoms of depression. It will enact symptoms of anxiety. You'll have suicidality. I'm telling you, this is my experience, and this is because it's my experience, I became informed about all this stuff, right? And you have all those symptoms, but we never really look at the biology, and that is one thing. If the downside of some of these peer specialist things is not enough of us are educated and understanding of this biological portion, that we don't know when to recommend that.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it's kind of like it has me thinking about what we were saying about Wes. You know what I mean? Like dealing with this kid. Everybody is like, he has to go see this person for this. He has to go see this person for this. When, the thing now that's coming, and I want to say it's coming, okay, because I think when I said harm reduction was coming, harm reduction was coming, right? So even though this stuff has all been practiced and talked about, but I think what's coming now is like the understanding of the whole person. Like, how is your diet affecting your mental health? How is your diet affecting your use? You know what I mean? What is your sleep like?
Yeah.
What are your hormones like?
Yeah.
I remember I was talking with somebody that would tell me, man, I keep thinking, like, I keep thinking about killing myself.
Right.
She becomes like, fixated on it, right? And I'm like, and I'm not even thinking about the whole person.
Right.
And come to find out, they had a cyst in their ovaries.
Right. Which
And
is
during
menstrual cycle.
menstrual cycle, and the doctor was like, "Oh yeah, this causes, suicidal ideation whenever your hormones go through this." Got that taken care of, and that was it. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm saying there's a lot of other stuff, but that was the crux right there.
Yeah.
Why it would happen monthly? Yo, I'm going through this again, man. And I'm thinking in my head, man, you working, step 7? Are you God's will in you? You know what I mean? You talking to your sponsor about this?
Right,
You know
right.
what I mean?
Well, and I think like doctors take, out of all the hours of studying and coursework they have to do, it's a very small percentage of their coursework that is specific about addiction, right?
Very small.
But I do think that there are more addictionologists that are coming into the scene. I know there was an addictionologist who just opened a practice here in Roswell, and 5 years ago, who I went to see, she was the only one that I knew of who had that. And the problem with addictionologists are you have to be multidisciplined. You have to be a psychiatrist.
A lot of school.
You have to be a licensed counselor, an LPC,
A lot of continuing education hours.
and you have to be a medical doctor.
A lot. Who does all that?
And
Who
you
does
have to
that?
keep up with those credentials.
Yeah. Probably every 2 years.
Right.
You have to get that stuff back.
Right.
That's
And
hardcore, man.
Yeah. And then, but even my general practitioner, who I found, he's a younger guy, and so he seemed to be a little more in tune with the holistic kind of approach. And so I think like that's important too, is like
Super important.
finding a good
Spiritual approach,
general,
holistic approach.
Yeah. Yeah. And, our pastor, Pastor David, says, he goes, "Did you hear from God, or did you just eat Doritos before you went to bed?" I love that, man.
That's very
Because it's like, did the Lord give you a dream, or did you just eat before you went to sleep? And now you got this weird dream.
Yeah, I had a vision
Right.
and a chili dog before I went to sleep.
Right.
Along with the chili
What does
dog
that
before I
mean?
went to bed too.
Right. So we said a lot right there, man.
I was gonna say, man, I hate to bring it back, but I was thinking I got a little experience with different rehab type facilities, and
Yeah, a little bit.
a couple. But I'm not gonna plug. I'm not gonna do a plug for rehab. I'm not getting paid or anything. But if I was,
Why don't you give us some sponsored dollars? We'll shout you out.
no. But I was thinking, kind of, Christian was saying the first year being able to see the addictionologist, but I think that in a lot of cases that's just not. It's just in the medical structure we have and insurance and the price of everything, it's just not possible. And I saw guys at this place I was at. It's 6 months and it's $5,000, right? I mean, and that's just. And sometimes they scholarship people in, and so seeing that from someone who's been through the body broker vibe, feeling like, oh, I'm just getting shuffled around from insurance-based place to insurance-based place. Seeing that, I know they're not money motivated off the rip.
That's cool.
Right. And
That's
then
very important.
I'm able to trust, you know? And then the other thing is talk about vitamin D. We're out there with shovels and gardening, and everybody is self-sufficient. So you cook for everyone who's on property. Where I was at, it was 70 men. And you take people through the 12 steps. So you get sponsored, and then you sponsor others. So it's that sense of community where you have a purpose and start to belong. And then a lot of that depression you kind of see fade away because it's just people who are in dingy hotels shooting meth, and then they get around friends, and they're kind of feel
they're seeing
okay.
hope, they're seeing care, they're seeing love, they're
Yeah.
seeing like fellowship. Like that's like these things are all just as important as the other.
Yeah.
know what I'm
Well, and I
saying?
think like in an instance with Kale, there's a work component.
Oh yeah, a discipline.
I don't know, maybe you know about this, but for some reason it seems like I only know a couple, but it seems like the clinical model removes physical, like hard physical activity from their model of approach to addiction. But like for what Kale's talking about is you have class in the morning, then you're out there all day sweating, and Vision Warriors just did a 30-day program. It's very similar, right?
Yeah.
So from 6 a.m. to noon, they're doing step study, they're doing Bible study, they're doing group, they're doing all this kind of mental and spiritual and emotional stuff. and then at noon they were going out and working, right? And there's something about that, man, that physical component, getting out there, working with your hands, doing something that um, it's spiritual, I think, in some way.
Yeah, I think, man, you know what? I think we live in a time where getting things done, unless you're doing it like real independently, like if it's like, basically like, yo, we don't take anything, but if you pay us, if it's cash money, okay, and there's all that politics is taken out, then you can put somebody on a farm and get them
Right.
getting them in that kind of discipleship
Right.
and give them that opportunity to work together really like physically in a laborious manner, get things done as a team. And that concept is important to me, and an idea like that's a real good situation to me. But I think in when it comes to what is offered, it's really a lot of it is really rotated in the process of the business and the business aspect of it, and what is available, how are you supposed to do it. If I accept Blue Cross Blue Shield, and you say, well, yeah, and we take them out to we got about 50 acres, and we do corn, every Saturday. And they're not covering that.
Right.
Sorry about that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So then that's when
that
insurance,
freedom
is dictating
dictates.
quality of care, level of care,
Sure.
what can happen, what can't happen.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's very interesting. And let me see, that brought up something with this Times article. You ready to jump into that, Kale?
Yeah, let's
You
roll.
got any other? Did we answer the question? What was the question?
What
What did you ask, bro? I can't remember now that we went into.
You were right. It is going to be a good show. Yeah, I can't remember what it was. I was thinking of what was in this article that I'd read. We might need to cut this out.
That's okay.
Well, I mean, it says this is from the Times article written by what's her name there? Something. I'll find it later. Oh, Jamie Ducarme.
Oh yeah, Jamie.
You know
Ducon.
Jamie.
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah,
Oh,
Jamie,
Jamie.
yeah.
Good friend of Dr. West, I believe.
Yeah.
That's what I heard.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. They had breakfast yesterday.
Yes.
It says lots of people
Love you,
would.
Wes.
Pretty sure Cash knows her.
Let me tell you something about.
Shout out Cash. Shout out Cash one
Let me tell
time.
you something
Shout
about.
out, Cash. We love you, dog. We don't make fun of you if we don't love you.
That's right. Lots of people. A medication might help with symptoms, but it can't overcome the basic facts of someone's life. Well, let's talk about medications. I don't know, but whether they're incarcerated, going through divorce, being bullied at school, dealing with discrimination, or struggling with loneliness, a pill can't change the fact that we live in a bitterly divided country. Okay, that went a different direction.
No, but that's so you're talking about
Right.
environmental factors, which we didn't cover,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
right? Environmental factors are huge in determining. Environmental factors create stress. Stress creates a weakened nervous system. When your nervous system is always on alert, your nervous system gets weakened. When your nervous system gets weakened, your immune system gets weakened,
Yep.
right? And you're not in a good. You ever been really tired, like
Yeah.
really tired, and there's something you got to deal with, and you don't want to deal with it, or somebody wants to talk to you about something where if you had gotten some sleep, you would have just been like, "Oh, here's the solution," but because you're so tired, you just fired off 17 cuss words, and I can't deal with this right now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. All the time.
So if you're living,
All the time for real, man. I
Yeah.
I have to, dude. I have to like in my life. When I am the most apologetic is when I'm seriously tired and I'm not able to like go. I can't end the day like I start the day. I'm not as sharp.
right.
You know what I mean? And that wear and tear really affects you.
So
And
you
you're
imagine
snapping.
you're living in a situation
Yeah.
that's high stress, high anxiety. You
All
have
that.
uncertain financial situations. You have uncertain housing situation. You have violence in the home. If you're continually exposed to that, right? And then we're like, just work the step on that or whatever. It's like, but then you go back. It's the same thing too. Someone goes to treatment
Yeah.
and It's this concept that culture eats ideology.
Yeah.
Big time.
You go to rehab, you get a new ideology, you get a new framework, you start living better, you start to see things better, and then you go right back into a toxic environment. And that toxic environment can be your neighborhood, your community, it could be your house, your family, your immediate family. You go back into that environment, the culture of that environment is going to take away and eat up any ideology you have and been given.
Man, you're describing like so much of our culture, you know, like almost like, and the problem with that, if that environment usually consists of people that are unable to even get proper treatment.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So they are extremely stressed because of like their life situation. You know, it's been passed down generations. Where they live is shitty. What they work for is nothing. And like help, therapy, like
Right.
what's that? You know, what therapy? I got to be up at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like I got to get my kids to school. Like single mothers. You know what I mean? All that. You know, I don't. You know, I don't even want to bring like race into it. You know what I mean? But if your money's low and you're stressed out all the time, you best believe that affects your mental health. That affects your decision-making skills. You're going to see things that are going to encourage drug use and an escape of some form to get away from all of that.
Right.
All
That's
the
the
time.
idea of what rehab is supposed to be. Rehab is supposed to remove you from those external circumstantial factors
Yeah.
to give you a chance to kind of reorient.
Reset.
Reset.
Learn something.
And it's, beyond the scope of care. And that's also why there's sober livings and why they're quote unquote halfway houses and those kind of environments, because ideally that's a good transitional place so you don't go right back into where you were. It's people, places, things, right? That's what we're talking about.
Yep.
Why don't you take us to the top of the article and give us kind of the general thesis of what they're...
Yeah, so the main question that's being posed is mental health care working in the U.S.? And since 2002, the share of Americans getting mental health care has grown by a third. The share of those reporting excellent mental health care has fallen by nearly as much. So a 2009 study even concluded that the criteria underlying psychiatric diagnosis are scientifically meaningless due to their inconsistent metrics, overlapping symptoms, and limited scope. That's a sobering conclusion because diagnosis largely determines treatment, which is kind of what we were saying with insurance and the DSM-5. And
Yeah. So that stat is basically saying that, and there's a graph. So it's basically that you have all these people who are getting more therapy, more rehab, and however they're defining therapy. And they might be talking to a lot about because there's a lot of online therapy that's accessible right now,
Right.
which is different. You know this. When you sit,
There's a
and
lot of opinions.
you can
about
feel
that.
the heartbeat,
Yeah.
the electromagnetic
just having
waves of the
this.
heartbeat, bro.
The
That's
vibe,
different.
baby. The vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what it's saying is that there are more people in therapy, but when they're looking at the people who are reporting mental health issues, that number is not improving. It's actually going worse. It's getting worse.
Right.
So that's mainly kind of what this article is saying is like, here are these two data points that are not correlating, because what they can see is with other things like heart disease,
Right.
cancer,
They're getting better.
diabetes, the better that and the more access that people have to care, and the better that care gets, they're finding, okay, we can see the causality and the causation of now we're having more people who are going into remission, who are getting out of heart disease, and who have manageable diabetes, right? But here in mental health, they're not seeing those numbers, and so this is where this article is trying to start breaking it down. Why is that?
Well, I think the simple answer is the numbers aren't necessarily telling the story in these stats. All right, and I know they say numbers don't lie, but I think and this is just my opinion. Okay, I think it's going something like this. Okay, you have this probably right now. You have the widest range of ways to help mental health and addiction. There's never probably ever in life than now you see a wider scope of assistance, meaning there's so many different ways, there's so many different methods, and there's more help than ever that there's ever been, okay? But when you put that up against a time, okay, it's almost like a perfect storm. If you start from, I don't know, maybe like what comes to mind to me is whenever I'm going to go big here, then I'm going to try to get small, okay? When you look at the scope of our culture and our nation from 2016, it's almost like when Trump became. And I'm not blaming anything on Trump, okay? I'm not blaming on Trump.
Buzzword, keyword.
All right, I'm not blaming. But when he took
7
office,
Republicans just unsubscribed.
right. It was such a it caused such a thing in our nation. Such a this divide starts happening, and then there's this influx of like media information that's really kind of like forcing sides, right? And then all of a sudden a pandemic comes, right? And then all of a sudden this huge like media info on health and wellness all is like in the same pot freaking stirring together, right?
Right.
So you have this, it's such a culture shock for this time right now, and we're kind of we're in the aftermath of that right now. So what that equals is all this information pushed and all this like depression, a lot of because of the pandemic, a lot of because, the political landscape, a lot of because of money, and a lot of because information is telling you, if you're, how many times you see on social media, if you're this and this and this, then you're this. Right. That's all over the place right now. Yeah. And people are words, mindfulness, be in the moment, harm reduction. Like there's all this there's this big pot of like things that have a lot to do with you, your mental health, your drug addiction.
Right.
And it's what it happens is it's hurting, even though we have this wide scope of different methods and like we're moving forward. I think we're moving forward in mental health and addiction, okay? Even though this scope is out there, there's this like herd of people all searching, predicting, assuming, and saying, right, they're this, they're that, I need this, I need that, right, I'm depressed, I'm sad, right, how do you help me? Right. It's just a big gray area right now.
And that's where the article goes on to kind of talk about, that's part of the problem, is that these people come in, and especially with mental health and psychology, the main thing that we have is the DSM-5 right, as this governing kind of framework for all these modalities that have come out. And I think that we had a whole episode basically deconstructing it and kind of going, whoa. And so if this is the only thing that we're filtering all this stuff through, right?
Yeah.
And then maybe that is kind of issue. Also, I think what you're talking about is, I agree. I think that like one of the downsides of more exposure about mental illness, the good thing is the stigma starts getting relieved. Mm-hmm. People start asking for help. But one of the downside is, and I know you know this because you work with a lot of young people, is everybody thinks that they got some kind of mental health diagnosis.
It becomes a trend.
It's a trend.
And I'm not trying to take that away from the people that are getting help. You know what? All of us need help.
Right. Yeah.
Everybody needs help, man.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But the trend of it is like you're pushing, we have a whole identification thing. We have bullying going on in school. Like we have all these things that are really, before when we were bullied or you know what I'm saying? It's like, yo, you go home crying, you got bullied, you went out there and like you fought it out and like, you just dealt with the trauma of that situation really badly. You know what I mean? You don't do well. You know what I mean? Now right. It's like, no, you're bullying me, and that's good. You see, but it doesn't stop the mass
right.
of want and need of
right.
this. And even though we have this huge scope, right. it doesn't compensate the demand. So numbers do go down because of that. You see what I'm saying? Numbers do the numbers
more
are
people are identifying themselves as having some sort of mental health diagnosis. Like you said, they're self-identifying, and and it's a lot of young people, right? And if you think about young
Tons.
people, that's when your body is, hormones are getting introduced to your body that you hadn't had before. There's a lot of new things happening in you physically, but also mentally. Your mind's starting to expand. There's even in a healthy parent, dual parent household, there's conflict that starts, right? Which is natural progression, right? He shall leave his wife, is his mother, and cleave to his wife, right?
Yes.
Like so there's a lot going on. And so whenever I'm working with teens, I'm always trying to not discredit their emotions or their mental states, but I'm also trying to give them permission to be sad. Give them permission to be angry sometimes. Give them permission to kind of have an influx of emotions throughout the day. And because that is what it means to be human, right?
Yeah, and then like if you think of a teenager, I mean, there's few and far between opportunities to really be yourself, and especially
Well, you don't even know who you are.
while you're searching for yourself.
You don't even know, yeah.
You never even getting the opportunity to really do that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I think that therapy for teens right now and kids, man, like therapy for teens in particular is very important, and I think it's very needed right now because not for any great guru type thing that's being laid upon them. It's really like creating a space where these kids can like interact and be themselves.
Yeah.
Really.
Not be judged.
Not be judged. Yo,
Right.
Nobody's judged in here.
Right.
Like you take that, I'm a wrestler, I'm a punk rocker, you take all that shit and throw it out the door. We're all sitting there because like we need healing. Let's
Right.
sit down and rap about
Yeah.
it. You know what I'm
Levels
saying?
it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. What's next on the article?
Oh man. About to get in it. We might make some people mad.
Oh, let's do it.
All right. So
But mad with love.
in the early 2000s, I guess it's the National Institute of Mental Health, I assume, NIMH,
Yeah.
ran a large multi-stage trial meant to compare different antidepressants head-to-head in hopes of determining whether some worked better than others across the board or in specific groups of patients. What came out was the evidence that actually none of them are very good. It was really striking how poorly all of those antidepressants performed across the entire population. It goes on to say that in 2018, meta-analysis of data from 522 trials found that all of the 21 analyzed drugs worked better than placebos, but their benefits were mostly modest. A 2019 review went further, concluding that antidepressants' effects are minimal and possibly without any importance to the average patient with major depressive disorder.
Yeah.
1 in 8 U.S. adults now takes an antidepressant, and 1 in 5 has recently received some kind of mental health care, an increase of almost 15 million people in treatment since 2002.
Wow.
That's tough. That's a hard pill to swallow. No pun intended.
Yo, for real?
I, here's what I got to say about that. When I went to rehab, the doctor had me on blood pressure medicine. Well, I was doing cocaine and Adderall all the time. So that's why my blood pressure was high. Get off cocaine and Adderall, all of a sudden my blood pressure gets better, right? When I was living in Santa Barbara, renting my uncle's, a closet in my uncle's garage, but it's in Santa Barbara though,
Yeah.
It was a nice
No
closet.
matter where you at,
and I was
you in
fancy
Santa Barbara, okay?
And I was in a relationship with a married woman who was,
That's why you was in.
20, 30 years older than me. And I went to the doctor and he put me on Prozac, right? I was also, doing cocaine, and I was also, experimenting with heroin, and I got put on the Prozac. And, well, that shit made me even crazier, right? And then fast forward to when I went to the addictionologist, and I kind of ran out of money because it's private pay. Mm-hmm. She said, well, what your insurance will cover is a prescription to Wellbutrin, which she said clearly, this is a Band-Aid. What your issue is a hormonal imbalance. Mm-hmm. But the Wellbutrin can act as a band. Well, I got on the Wellbutrin, and then I got catastrophic thinking, which is like I would think of my son falling down the stairs, and then I would visualize it horrifically, and then I would start to freak out, and I would panic. I couldn't sleep. I had a consistent thing of anger in my chest, you know. Um, so that's my experience with trying to take these antidepressants. They
SSRIs.
almost created more issues than they solved. That's just my limited experience with it. But my experience does kind of line up with what that article is stating, right?
Yeah.
Like I did get with Wellbutrin, I got some. I did get because it kind of it's kind of energizing.
Yeah. And
I
it was your
was more
focus and-
motivated,
yeah,
and I was able to
it's a
focus.
stimulant style
Yeah.
thing, you know.
But the other things of it were just so unmanageable that I couldn't do that. Yeah.
This is a tough question. This is a real question. You know what I mean? I mean, not that this is a tough one to answer.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I'm only trying to go off
Yeah.
my own experience with
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
But I do know that, like, even in our documentary, Everything is Fine, you know, we cited an article that also cited in this article that a study where they found that what they thought was a cause of depression, which was serotonin levels,
Right. That's totally.
they're kind of going, well, I don't think that they're saying we don't think that's actually it.
Yeah.
And so what ends up happening is you get too much serotonin, which can create a whole set of other issues. So that's my experience with it. And I think, like, this is where, you know, I got to say this, like, the sponsor I got is, you know, such a blessing in my life because he is involved in all these decisions.
Yeah.
And he talks through it, and we talk about it. And
It's a blessing for you, bro.
oh, totally. And so it's like, I can only imagine someone who's kind of in a vacuum and they go to their doctor and they list the criteria of symptoms. And the doctor goes, well, let me just put you on this thing, right? The doctor spent 10 minutes with the patient. And now
And
they're
he's just
walking
going
out.
off of what you say. You don't even know how you feel, man.
Right.
What'd you say? You feel like that? Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
oh, you experiment for real.
Well, how
Oh.
easy is it to go into
Come on,
doctor?
man.
You can hustle doctors easy, bro. I
Yeah.
can get on the
Oh,
ADHD
yeah.
medicine right now, bro.
Yeah, until it gets exposed, and then all the oxycontins are regulated.
Talk about it.
All the benzos are harder to get now.
Yeah.
Because it got really exposed.
But I think it's a good thing to bring up.
It's good.
And talk about, you know, because I think the way, and the article goes on to say, and I think this is kind of an American thing, right? Just fix me so I can get back to work.
Yeah.
Just fix me so I can get back to doing what I'm normal, or I can get back to where this ideal I've set up for myself in my head. And this is where I really think what Eternal Strength and Wes and his team are getting at. You're not broken, right? What's their slogan? You're not broken. You're not damaged, right?
Yeah.
That
You are eternal strength.
you are eternal strength. Yeah, because, like, I think some of it is like we create, and this could be like what media and stuff does, and the access we have to information and film and TV and stories, that we create these ideals in our head for who we should be and who we think we should be. And then we make these vows to ourselves that this is who I'm going to be. And then we find ourselves in a world of pain and drama and all this stuff going on, and we forgot that we took the vow. We forgot that we promised that we weren't going to be like that, or we were going to be more like this person or more like that person. And so the whole thing is built on a false pretense to begin with, you know?
Yes.
And that is so hard to unravel. You know this from sitting with people, and Kale, you know this from sitting with people. It's like we build these whole things up, and meanwhile, the person, the real that person is deep inside of there, and then what we're doing is we're treating the illusion.
Yeah.
We treat the illusion
Not the person.
and not the person.
Yeah.
And then the person's going, well, this is not how I want my illusion to work. It's not working right. So take me off of that and let me try this one. And then you find out, oh, well, if I do cocaine and then I do this, well, that kind of makes everything fine, right?
Yeah.
So we're just looking for a way to treat this thing that doesn't even really exist. And then we wonder why we're all freaking lost in the shuffle,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, it's really like you come to counseling and you see a psychologist or you see a therapist or you see a counselor, and ultimately it's like, I want to heal, I want to become me. Okay, and if that's really what you're looking for, you want to find yourself. Well, if you were ever was you, if there was a time that you had an authentic piece of yourself, maybe when you was a kid, or like a lot of people, you always talk about, man, I feel like I'm me when I'm like swimming at the beach, I'm in the ocean.
Yeah.
And like what it does is it kind of like gives you puts you back in a moment when you were a kid. It's like when I was really none
Yeah.
of this other stuff.
Right.
Well, if you come to a therapist and that's what you're searching for, which I think there is a big aspect of that's happening. I want to be me. I don't want to hurt no more. I don't want to suffer anymore. But when you were when things were kind of okay, or you were your most authentic self, there wasn't no, Depakote. There wasn't no, Prozac. There wasn't any drugs
Right.
doing that. You know
Right.
what I mean? And when you think about, these, man, it's really puts me in a really tough position to be in, because I've seen those drugs really with my own two eyes. I've watched people get better from there.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's a really tough place to be.
Right.
You know what I mean? But it's almost like what we were talking about, Wes and Eternal Strength, right? And we were sitting there eating breakfast one time, and you were like, hey man, what about Kanye West? What do you think about him? You know what I mean? And it seems like, if you're a doctor of psychology and stuff like that,
yeah, tell us what you think.
You can like really break Kanye's shit, because he's so outward with his stuff, right? And his answer was, I would have to sit with him for years
Yeah.
to understand.
His
what's
answer was
going
a
on.
little dramatic.
But
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
But it was like a really long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when I went over there, I was talking to Kara. This is a big shout out to Eternal Strength, because you were talking about this is what they're really getting to. She was telling me that one of the kids there were like, hey, what do you think about Trump? And Ty was like,
I don't know him.
I never met him. It's one of those things. It's like,
Yeah, yeah.
they're
breaking out. They're taking out that illusion. But I
Yeah.
think this is because I feel your tension in talking about this, because you are a therapist. But I want to say that I'm glad that you are a therapist, because I think that, and I've said this before, what qualifies you to be a therapist, yes, the credentials, but more so it's your heart condition, your ability that when someone comes in, and anyone who watches the show and listens to you, they can hear that in your tone and the way that you communicate, that you're a safe person to come to and sit with and be able to open up this and explore this and understand this.
Yeah.
And you probably create a very level playing field with people who you're sitting with.
Well, thank you, man.
Yeah.
I try to. I really do. It
Right.
really means something to me. It really means something to be helpful.
Yeah, it's an
my
honor.
prayer.
It's a seat of service.
Yeah, it's it. That's it for me.
Yeah.
Because I'm healing if I'm able to be helpful.
Right.
Yeah, you seem like a safe person to talk to. That's.
Yeah. Thank you, man.
But Christian asked earlier, have you ever been up for a few days? And my head, my head went, yeah, for sure. And it kind of leads into this, because I mean, I was on what they'd call a bender, and it led me into a psych ward, and I was on amphetamines for days, and I was having paranoid delusions, and they give me heavy sedative the first night, and then I see a doctor for 10 minutes the next day, and they put me on this medication to treat those. What do you call it when it's a in the moment symptom of a condition? It's not chronic. It's right. And then I stayed on that medication for 2 years, and it brings me back to Wes. And I remember I think it's in Everything Is Fine, when he says, when you say I am, it's powerful. And how I started saying, well, I am this. But it's like, well, no, I damaged my brain and am prone to these paranoid delusions, but I'm not, my head's not broken.
Right.
You
That's
know
what
I'm
Christian's saying too.
Yeah. And so I relate with that a lot, because I haven't been on it in a while, and I have gotten extremely better in the past. I mean, Christian, do you remember when I met you in 2019 and I was, shot out?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember
Lost,
that.
bro.
Yeah, and you know, in the documentary Megan's Prayer, Britt, who's your mentor,
Yeah.
he speaks to this really well, which is because that documentary is about co-occurring disorder, which is a mental health issue and an addiction issue.
Right.
And I'm not sure if it made the cut, but this is one of the beautiful things about getting to interview people. Is you learn and you learn so
You
much.
dig it, you get in it. Like
And he was saying that that's such a complex thing to try to when somebody's coming in, like in your case, Kale, where it's like you're seeking treatment. It's like, okay, is this a mental health issue or is this a result of prolonged drug use? And the only way to really, if I'm remembering correctly what Britt said, is the only way to really do that is to first solve one issue first. And the easiest, the clearest one to solve is remove you from the use of the
stop
substance.
getting high.
Stop getting high. And
Now
then
we
you,
can mess
then
with
you
you.
got to let some time pass.
Yeah.
Or think about somebody getting sober off of meth.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a process, bro.
Yeah.
Even though you see progress, like getting off of that and dealing with the after effects of that is a slow roll,
Yeah.
bro, for real.
Right. And we're seeing a lot of that. We were talking about it the other day about like when we're working with guys who that was their thing, meth.
Yeah.
It's like you can just see the prolonged effect. But the good thing about meth is
You
physically,
can get shit done.
Yeah.
yeah.
You can.
Well, no, but physically,
Legos, anything.
your body goes through the acute withdrawals pretty quickly,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
it runs through your system pretty quickly.
Right.
And if someone can stay off of an amphetamine for a long period of time, like a year or more,
Yeah.
that their probability for relapse goes down
Big
extremely.
time. Yeah.
The one that I've always heard is the one that's really hard is crack, cocaine. That people can have multiple years of spiritual growth, improved lifestyle, and that there's like a weird thing that happens with crack and cocaine. So
Cocaine
crack
too,
and cocaine
yeah.
is 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So what I was told was it's 5 years. Once you get past that 5-year mark, free of cocaine and not ingesting anything like that in your system, that's when your probability of prolonged recovery
Right. It gets heightened.
it's really high.
I don't want to take away from what you were saying though, like what Britt was saying. Let's stop getting high, and then we can really dig into what's really the issue.
Right.
You know, your mental health, what you've been
Or
through.
if that is
Yeah.
if it is like,
I
are
think
you
it
bipolar?
I think it always something like
Right.
like I said about the wideness of mental health right now,
Right.
and trauma. I'm like 99.9999% sure that
Yeah.
if you have a problem with drugs and alcohol, it means you're like if you have a disorder or you're abusing the use of that narcotic, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's I would say most likely you're self-medicating and trying to escape. It's not just like, oh man, I just love drinking so much and I can't stop it and it's messing up my life. No, it's like
Well, it's sometimes it can be that, right? Someone
I
can
don't know.
start.
I don't know, man.
But
You
how
know,
many stories have you heard where it starts all good
Yeah,
and everything's fine
right.
and it's fun, and then it turns into an addiction?
I have heard it, but I believe that even in those cases, there's an untreated trauma of some sort that hasn't been dealt with on really what connects you to doing it to where it's makes your life unmanageable.
Right.
Because think about it, right? Like, you know, if you like have this dependence, like I'm not taking away from the physical dependence, the mental dependence and all that kind of stuff that happens when you use narcotics and drugs and alcohol, okay? But when you are like clean for a certain amount of time and then you relapse again, right? And you keep using, right? And then you go through that process again. There's like something is not.
Well, then what would you say is your mental health disorder that caused you to be an addict?
I would say I don't know for sure, but I can say I can attest it to trauma in my childhood. I can attest it to the things that all have to do with like emotional health and mental health, like feeling like I never fit in. You know what I'm saying? That causes damaging like self-esteem, self-worthlessness, all that kind of stuff.
That's almost in every story, right?
That's
I
almost
felt
in
like
every
I
story.
didn't fit in.
Trauma's in every story. I didn't fit in. You know what I mean? My family dynamics, I mean, could be looked at as very beautiful, right? Because a lot of it was, but there was, in my own personal story of my family, there was stuff that I was going through that was like, hard to be a part of.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Seeing violence, these things, like, that's what I mean, like trauma and stuff
But
like
that's
that.
not the same as a mental health diagnosis.
Well, no. I'm not necessarily talking about them. I'm talking about trauma.
Yeah, right.
Okay, like trauma is like
Trauma means wound.
It means so much.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. It's just like such a word.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
The things that it's something that you never. It's an obstacle that you've never really been able to deal with productively and really get over.
Right. Most
sometimes it's
unhealthy
really difficult.
behaviors is a coping mechanism to some sort of wound that we've experienced.
Right. So when it comes to drug and alcohol, I say
That's why we say it's a
almost
solution.
all the time. Yeah. It's you're medicating yourself from something that you might not even know what it is, man.
And ideally, that's what's happening in a treatment center, in therapy, in working the steps, whichever modality you choose.
You're
Ideally,
tweaking
what
that
is
stuff
happening
out.
is, in the book Biology of Desire, he words it as reframing the past.
Right.
There has to be a reframing of the past for prolonged recovery. You have to take a look at the past and then change the lens in which you see the past.
Right. That's
Right.
big.
Right. That's what you're doing in trauma.
that's what
When you're
I'm
saying
doing.
the word trauma, you're saying you're going to have to dig into that. And that's ideally what hopefully is happening in a recovery community or in therapy.
Right.
Yeah.
Some, depending on the level of it, like, you know what I'm saying? Like when you talk about peer, that peer community togetherness, that network that you create, like just finding somebody that understands you
Oh, yeah.
helps you get over. That's so
yeah.
huge of getting over this traumatic thing this wound that you talk about. Like it starts to heal it, because me, I don't even know what that. They're probably in that conversation. They're probably showing you what you're suffering from in that share. It's like, oh shit, that's a
Yeah.
because I'm telling you right now, like I know you hear stories where a side says, no man, it all started out, we were all hanging out on the weekends and shit like that, and I started drinking and we were partying and stuff like that. Okay, yeah. Then but then the story keeps going. But everybody else kind of when we got like in our 20s, they kind of like started working. But I was still at the kegger, but now I'm kind of like by myself, and now I'm alone drinking bottles of liquor.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? That's not just like, oh man, I slipped, I messed around and went to a frat party, and shit just got ugly. No, the shit got ugly because something in you hasn't healed.
There was something that there was some sort of relief, and this is also the biology of desire. There was some sort of relief that the substance was giving you that you could never have found before. And this is why I think opiates, why there's such a epidemic of opiates and overdoses, is because opiates is like a warm blanket for your soul.
It's like,
you know what I mean? Like it makes you feel like everything's fine.
Bro, let me tell you something. Like if you ever been to a rehab, or like even like maybe, been to an ER or something like that, every once in a while when you're like in those situations, you will get a warm blanket from the hospital that comes like out of a dryer or something like that. And when that thing snugged, there is that's heroin. That warm blanket.
Yeah.
Freaking, you know what I'm saying? From all your worries and all your troubles and all that bullshit you go through in life.
Right. And once you discover that, it's really easy to just, oh, well, that was the fix. That's the solution, because it fixed this thing.
Well, you said, David, you said like you find somebody that has that you can relate with, and so it's full circle. I mean, I keep hearing connection. right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I didn't fit in. Now I have a way I fit in. I
Right.
found someone who understands me.
Yeah.
And the thing that I thought about my experience with opioids, and it's that I don't care about the connection. I feel that, and it's none of that stuff matters.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why it's such a solution, is because all that stuff that I either don't know how or struggle with or can't reconcile
Right.
doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Man, yeah, that's it. That's real true.
Yeah. All right, what do we got next on there?
Well, I mean,
Real quick, I want to say
Yeah.
like we talked about how opiates affect you, right? But just think about, man, I'm telling you, you want to see a real hardcore alcoholic is the person that's the quietest person in the room, and then when he drinks, he has this like 30-minute window of being the shit.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
He is so withheld and so introverted,
Right.
and he has so much to say.
Yeah.
And when he gets that, boom, 2 shots. Hey man, what's going on? Oh man, where you been?
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
shit.
There's a little
Yeah,
sweet
yeah,
spot
yeah.
there.
You got that sweet spot.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's total embarrassing, shameful. You know what I'm saying?
But that was what I loved about stimulants. Stimulants quieted my mind. It just made it to where all the noise. So you remove that. Now you got to deal with that.
All the noise.
You got to deal with all the noise.
24/7. Yeah.
It's the gift and the curse, you know. All right. Well, as we're
I'm sorry,
starting to
let's
wrap
go.
up,
Let's keep
what
it
you
going.
got?
Let's keep it
yeah.
moving,
So
man.
this
My
kind
bad.
of to kind of bring some conclusion to what y'all were talking about. A lot of people. This is quotes from some musician in Texas that they were quoting. Mancuso is his last name.
Oh shit.
A lot of people are suffering.
Random guy in Texas.
Yeah, he's a music
I
producer.
bet you he's in
Yeah.
Austin.
I don't know what his significance, but a lot of people are suffering from material conditions and are having a reasonable, rational human response to suffering. That's kind of the way he sums up this, the whole thing.
That's kind of like what Mitchell said. It's like, doesn't surprise me.
Right.
Dude's just dropping off.
Right. Yeah.
This is how the culture is dictating our reaction. You know what I mean?
I you know what's been coming up for me a lot is through various ways. You ever get that, like where you kind of get like a message and it comes like in from just totally unconnected things? Then what the message has been is, and right now what it is men don't know how to feel sadness. Furthering that, they don't know, if they don't know how to feel it, they don't know how to express it. So what it comes out as is anger,
Mad.
mad. And when I can't feel, this is what like my spiritual progress has like helped me to do, and through sponsorship, through friendships like you, and it's like to realize that, Adam Abramowitz, right? He's
Beautiful guy.
I'm like plugging all our documentaries. He's in Road to Recovery. He's also in
Beautiful
Dog
dude.
Island.
Mostsidemedia.org.
He was the first person that I heard proudly say he was scared.
Wow.
And at first I was like, my instinct was like,
You
bitch.
scared? You scared? Say you scared. Man.
But that's like my ego's first reaction, right?
It's a very
But then I realized
manly thing.
power of what he was doing when he was saying he was scared. Because he's also like the most fearless person I know.
He's a beast.
Yeah.
He's like this peaceful, lovable.
Yeah.
But like, you have to double take to see the beast. Like, oh, this guy's capable of like
Yeah.
effing things up. For real. He's a big dude.
But when I heard him kind of confess that, that's kind of like when it was like, okay, like that's another thing that we don't really express. But I think I hear that more now. People saying they're scared.
Yes.
But what I don't hear is men say they're sad. Yeah. And you said this on maybe a couple shows ago, where it's like the only time you could express sadness is if somebody died.
Yeah.
Right.
It would all like, fall. It was like, now this is proper. I can be sad now. Everybody would understand this.
Right.
And that's a big thing. I think it's like for men, I think it's being vulnerable, period, is very difficult to show that side of you.
Well, we
To
don't even know that that sadness is there.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what
okay,
I'm saying.
Yeah, okay, I got you.
So men are being vulnerable as they can be, but there's this huge blind spot to sadness, grieving. Right? Kara would call that grieving. Like, is it trauma or is it just the inability to grieve?
Wow.
Right? And I
Kind of like what John Luss said in the documentary, Most High's documentary, 12 and 2. It's a great documentary. But he says,
MostHighMedia.org.
he says, like, I can't, I always violent. And the boy beside you was like, that was your cry. Do you remember that? You were sitting
Yes.
opposite. He said, that was your cry right
Yeah.
there. Deep.
See what happens when you're sitting at a table,
Shit,
bro?
man. I know. Sitting around there talking that shit,
Yeah.
trying to break things down. You have the 12 and 2, bro.
Yeah. We got to do
12
another
and
one.
2.
P-Man Foundation has granted us, and so we got to get one accomplished. I'm waiting for the right stars to align.
We got to do that.
We got to do another one.
Powerful, bro.
Yeah.
People jump in the water, get baptized and everything
Yeah,
after
yeah.
2 days of that.
To me, I think it comes down to, and this is where therapy, with a good therapist like you know, you all right, David? You got your
No, yeah. Listen, I'm sorry. My bad.
Did
I'm
you get a
listening,
shot
dude.
of that?
No,
Not enough over there, dude.
my bad.
All
need a
that
drug test.
heroin
I was
talk.
focused. I was
Do we need
focused.
to drug test you, bro?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Is allowing. We are humans, and we are a spectrum of emotions through a day, and that is okay. My sponsor told me the other day, he said, nothing's wrong, Christian. And it's just like stopped me because everything was wrong until he said,
Ain't nothing wrong.
there's nothing wrong, Christian.
That's heavy, man.
Because there
Man,
isn't.
what a reveal that is,
Yeah,
dude.
huge reveal. Because there's something about whatever the thing I have. I would call it alcoholism, right? That's just the word for it, right?
You
There's
might be a little
something in me-
alcoholic.
There's something in me that is not comfortable in peace. Peace feels like boredom. There's something in me that is not comfortable when everything's okay. And it's fear,
Yeah.
right? It's lingering effects of, trauma, right? And it takes time to heal. And so my brain is always trying to create problems for me to solve.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Right?
Absolutely.
Like, it's okay if you're sad because somebody said something that hurt your feelings. And it's okay if that affected you in a way that your judgment mind might say you're being too affected by this. You're not.
Yeah.
It's okay. Like, we are allowed to go through these ranges of emotions, and we're allowed to feel these things because this is how we were beautifully and wonderfully crafted by whatever the creator is to give us this array of emotions. And so how do we learn to accept ourselves for all these things, and even the behaviors that we're currently doing that we're not proud of, that we did that we're not proud of? How do we even accept that? And like, really, I'm going to start preaching here, but this is the beauty of, like, the message that's snuggled into the story of Christ, is that we need to get really comfortable with the fact that God is always waiting for us with open arms.
Boy, you got to make me emotional with that.
That no matter what we do, we can always return to that source. And that's wonderful and beautiful. And the thing is we just don't want it. It's too much.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you to accept yourself as you are right now, with all of the dysfunctions, all of the things that you're judging yourself for not being the way you should be. It's okay. And there is a path forward. And we want to help you to move forward. And there's so many people that want to help you. And if you've listened to this and you need help, just reach out.
Man.
Because it's okay that you're not okay.
Very true. That was beautiful.
Thank
That was real talk. That is real, man. It's like you don't have to put on a show. You know what I'm saying? You can just be you, and you can be okay with the things that it's okay that you're hurting. It's okay that you feel bad. It's okay that you don't feel like you're good enough. You know, all those things are okay. That's just how you're feeling. You know what I mean? But, you know, there's people out there that can help you and love you, and God is always with you.
Amen. And dude, you know what too? It's hard for me. It's okay if everything's all right too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's cool. I'm good with that. That's really.
It's time to
that's-
burn it down when
you
that
know-
happens.
In fact, I prefer it.
I got a question to close.
Okay.
All right. One word answer only.
Oh, shit.
Is mental health care working in the U.S.?
No.
Yes.
Love it. Beautiful.
Perfect.
Peace. Thank you for listening.
Later.